Welcome to Mushroom Wonderland.
Today we're going to be looking at the prince mushroom, Agaricus Augustus, from the order Agaricaceae. This mushroom is saprobic, meaning that it survives by decomposing dead or decaying matter like wood mulch. It likes to grow on disturbed ground. It's often found on pathways and meadows or next to walkways right in the city and in urban environments, underneath hedgerows and in beauty bark. This is a very popular wild edible mushroom found all along the Pacific coast, including the Pacific Northwest. The caps on these can grow a whopping 13 inches across, but I find the best eating is from 2 to 6 inches across. There's also a very distinct almondy smell. These are closely related to the button mushrooms and portobellos that you find in the grocery store. These are some of the most highly regarded mushrooms worldwide, and it's a fitting reason why they earn the royal name like the prince. What's going on, everyone? Today we're gonna go find a little bit of an urban mushroom that I seem to find right here in town. I live right downtown. We're gonna be looking for Agaricus Augustus, the prince mushroom today. These mushrooms like to grow in the bark. They like to grow in landscapes. So be aware of pesticides, chemicals, fertilizers, fungicide. Fungicide probably wouldn't be growing mushrooms, I guess. Look out for dog urine, cat urine, hobo urine. Basically just look out for anything that could get sprayed on the mushrooms or that they could be absorbing through soil that has like oil or something nasty in it. Thanks for joining another awesome mushroom hunt on Mushroom Wonderland, and let's go find Agaricus Augustus. It's a rainy day here in the Pacific Northwest. We're gonna take a walk downtown to the waterfront and look in some beauty bark, and we're gonna go see if we can find the prince popping up right in town. Easy one to find, easy one to ID. Let's go. We're just about at sea level in the Puget Sound, an undisclosed location right down on the waterfront. There's the king, which is the Boletus edulis. We have the queen, which is Boletus reginus, and then the prince is actually an Agaricus. So this is closely related to the button mushroom that you get in the store or the portobello. This one is a good edible. There's quite a few different Agarics, and some of them are toxic, so make sure you know what you're looking for. So this is late spring, and this is when I see the prince start popping up. Loves bark areas, so let's have a look. These are some older specimens of the prince, and if you look, it's got this really kind of scaly top. Very scaly top, and underneath looks just a lot like a portobello, you know. It's got this brown, the gills turn brown, real white flesh in there. And they come up in these big clusters like this, like another big cluster right here. Big cluster growing right here alongside this bush. Somebody actually pulled out these young ones. You see the texturing on that cap. That's of the prince. Big contorted tangled cluster of them. It looks like the caps were breaking as they were emerging from the ground because they're so brittle. We did find a few good specimens. So if we look right here, the prince, Agaricus Augustus. Let's pick one, see what they look like. Now look at that, it's got this beautiful veil on there. And the gills are very white right now. The top's got that kind of textured look. But this is a beautiful example of the prince. Hardy mushroom, real thick, heavy duty mushroom. Almost kind of leathery on top. People say they smell like almonds. Definitely has a distinct smell, kind of a sweet smell. Easily they fall apart. I'm gonna collect these mushrooms in a paper bag. It's always smart to double check around underneath the bark where they were pushing out of the ground, because they're looking here. Ooh, there's a prime button. Prime button. Look at the veil, isn't even broke yet. Beautiful little prince. Gonna come home with us and go in the frying pan. All right, so we went out, we found the prince mushroom. I want to talk to you just a little bit about this handy dandy bag that I'm using. It's just a very basic brown paper bag with handles on it. This doubles as a perfect basket, and a basket that you can put in your pocket. I don't want to be walking through the streets with the big wicker basket in my hands. I like something a little bit more discreet. This brown paper bag from the grocery outlet Bargain Market will fold up and fit right in your back pocket, and it is a pop-up basket for you. It stays rigid enough that your mushrooms don't get smashed and banged up. Actually has kind of a gimbal type situation, so they're not bouncing around. This might even be better than a wicker basket. More discreet, and when you're walking back home and you've got a bunch of mushrooms, people aren't asking what's in your basket. People aren't looking at you funny for carrying a big fancy wicker basket or whatever, is the kind that I'm looking for. It's tough to find these when they're this age because these mushrooms grow so fast. It's like overnight they'll go from nothing to one of these big, huge, and they get even bigger than this, but often they just fall apart because they're so brittle. The smell is of amaretto or almond. It's got a very sweet smell. And I'm not one to say like mushrooms have too many distinct smells. A lot of mushrooms to me smell just like mushrooms, but these definitely have a unique smell. Well, like matsutake have a sweet smell. Of course, candy caps and chanterelle have a smell of their own, but the Prince has a very unique smell. It's almost pollen-y. It's kind of sweet. If you're a little bit unsure about this mushroom and you want to just double check, a spore print is always a good identifying key for identifying mushrooms that you're unfamiliar with. So when taking a spore print, there's a couple ways to go about it. If you look in your field guide, you'll find out that Agaricus mushrooms like this one are gonna have a dark chocolate spore print. So, some other mushrooms that might have a white spore print, I'll use some construction paper, colored construction paper. This is really gonna help the spore print show up. But for this particular mushroom, for the Agaricus Augustus, we're just gonna shoot for a white piece of regular printer paper. I'm gonna take one of these mushrooms, just the cap, I took the stem off, and we're gonna lay it right down on the white paper, and then you can take a bowl, just set your bowl right over the top of it, and leave that. And even within just a couple hours, you should be able to start seeing some spores show up on that paper. The only reason I put the bowl on here is just to keep the wind, I don't know, there's no wind here in the house, but it just kind of helps the spores to just settle straight down onto the paper. So we're looking for dark chocolatey brown spores for this Agaricus Augustus, and I guarantee you that's what we're gonna find when we lift this bowl up in a little while. Let's see what we got after about an hour. And you can see this dark spore print coming in, very chocolatey brown dark spore print. So there's our proof. It's in the pudding. We have the right mushroom. Here's our princes, and now we've got to figure out what to do with them next. Just like with most mushrooms, I just use a barbecue brush, and I brush the dirt and bits of beauty bark off of it. So the way I'm gonna cook these is just super simple. We're just gonna put butter and a little bit of salt. We're gonna saute them so that we can really taste the mushroom. If you're new to these mushrooms, try them on their own first. I like to just try the mushroom as it is, as minimal as possible. I like a little butter, well, okay, a lot of butter and a little bit of salt, just so that we get the real flavor of that mushroom. All right, so here we go. We got sauteed Prince mushrooms. We're gonna put a little bit on some toast. That's how my grandma did it. That's how she showed me how to eat mushrooms, just for the flavor. The bread kind of evens it out. Oh my gosh. It is very sweet, very rich. I'm telling you, this is delicious. Definitely one of my favorite mushrooms ever. Thank you for watching Mushroom Wonderland. Thank you for subscribing to the channel. We're just trying to spread some info about mushrooms, just having fun out here in the Pacific Northwest. So go get you some. Thanks for watching.